What's up, everybody? Welcome to RealGM Radio. I'm your host, Wes Goldberg. Today, John Wilmes and I are talking point guards. Chris Paul, Damian Lillard, Marcus Smart, all are on new teams. So we're going to break down their new situations. Then at the end, we're going to go to the toy department to build the ultimate point guard. Let's jump in. All right, it's RealGM Radio. Thanks so much for tuning in. The best way to support the show is to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure you're following us on your podcast app to get the show every week. John, it's been a while, man, since you've been on the show. What's been something you've been thinking about? What's rummaging in your head related to this offseason? What's the thing that you can't quit?
I think that I'm thinking a lot about something that will tie into everything else we're discussing today, which is just the overall stature. I think maybe primarily the financial stature of the point guard, or just kind of even like the combo guard in the NBA, in the very tight financial landscape that everybody's feeling these days. The guard seems to be getting squeezed the most. And I kind of wrote about this for the site this week with, Bruce Brown taking $3 million after he took $40 million. Just a lot of guards getting squeezed. Like, how cheap is Gary Trent even after he had an unbelievable playoffs, right? So it's not quite like I said to you before. It's not quite on the level of the running back in the NFL, where there's straight up only two who are going to get really paid at this point, and every other NFL team is going to fill the position with somebody on a rookie contract, right? There's more important and well-paid point guards than that in the NBA. But if things continue in this current trajectory, we might see something closer like the running back in the NFL. At the end of the day, you watch Summer League and you see it. There's a lot of guards. There's just a lot of them. So it's just kind of how it is.
I think it's an interesting question, too. What do you want out of your point guard, your quote-unquote point guard these days, right? There was obviously a time where you just wanted them to set the table, John Stockton kind of style. Hey, just get us into our offense, coach on the floor. And then we started to enter a period of, we really need this guy to score. And then I think that we went maybe too far in that direction. And then teams were like, we kind of also need this guy to set the table for us too, because we don't want to be this heliocentric Russell Westbrookian, James Harden style offense. But I don't know that there's a ton of those guys left, right? Like I was talking with somebody the other day about, hey, like this team could really use like a table setter, like an old school Chris Paul type of point guard. I'm like, where are you going to find that player? And it's almost why I think a guy like Chris Paul continues to get jobs. It's why a guy that like Mike Conley continues to stay employed. Even Kyle Lowry is just back on the Sixers somewhere on that bench. But, I think it's a fair question to wonder, like, okay, as teams kind of figure out what they want from that position, what does that mean for them? What does that mean for them financially if they're not going to be scoring 25 points per game or whatever it is, or maybe they are, and then obviously, you got to get into the max contracts of it all and all that kind of stuff. But we're talking a ton about point guards today. We got a bunch of point guard news that we haven't talked about on the show yet. Let's just jump right in. I want to talk about Chris Paul. I want to talk about Damian Lillard, and I want to talk about Marcus Smart, and then we've got some fun stuff later at the end. But let's start with Chris Paul, who returned to the Clippers for what seems like a full circle moment, a fitting way to end his career, if indeed this is his last stop. There are two components to this, the emotional one and the basketball one. And I know that I like the emotional part of the story. I think I'm still undecided on the basketball fit. What do you think?
He's just so old, honestly. It's kind of comes down to the fact that he's pretty old, and it's an old team. The California basketball teams are just going old these days, I guess. With the Warriors adding Al Horford, it's just in the Clippers adding Chris Paul and Bradley Beal, who is, I guess, not that old, but he feels very old. I don't know. I don't really know how much time there will be for him, really. But I guess people will get injured on that team because, again, they're old. I don't know that anything that they also had a Brook Lopez who's old, by the way. I don't know that their overall makeover to basically the bench, maybe a little bit to the starting lineup, I don't know that it moved the needle that much for them this summer. I'm most curious about the John Collins addition. In terms of, Chris Paul, I mean, I love Chris Paul quite deeply. He's the only player I've ever bought the shoes for. I bought Chris Paul shoes. They were kind of cheap. That might be why, but they weren't the most popular shoes. But I don't really know what he'll do here. James Harden he doesn't really get hurt actually,
right?
And he is so ball dominant. And that, I mean, until the playoffs, that really worked for them. So is Chris Paul a 15 to 18 minute player? Probably at this age, honestly. And maybe it'll just have a really good second unit as a result. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm still undecided. You mentioned James Harden plays a lot. Chris Paul plays a lot, right? He played and started all 82 games last year for San Antonio. He shot well. Still a grade A table setter, can get you into offense, can get you into pick and roll. The Harden-Zubac pick and roll was such a part of their offense last year, of the Clippers offense, obviously, that I wonder if Chris Paul can walk into that and just have some kind of similar type of chemistry with Zubac. I would assume something would be there right away. And then, you obviously have the John Collins piece there, and can Chris Paul find a way to get him involved? Chris Paul just has a way over the course of his career of finding guys with a ton of talent that might have not reached their potential to reach their potential. Like DeAndre Ayton is, the case study of that. But, I like having Chris Paul on this roster. I can start with what I like, I guess, which is the fact that he's available, the fact that he shoots it well, and it's going to give Ty Lue another button to push on offense. Like last year, it was always, okay, Harden pick and roll or Kawhi out of the post. And those are going to be the two things that we start every basic offensive set with. It's going to be these two things. And eventually, I do think it got a little repetitive. I think it got easy to scout, and I think teams just figured out how to defend it. And at least throwing Chris Paul in the mix is a new ingredient for Ty Lue to mess around with, another button to push, whatever it is. You mentioned that the Clippers are the oldest roster in the league. That's sort of the part where I don't like. You just don't see old rosters win a lot of games. Not rosters this old, with the injury concerns that they have to their best player, obviously Kawhi. I also wonder if they're starting. I'm getting a little nervous. Like, are they starting to get away from the identity that made them good last year? Which was, let's be top 5 in defense. Let's just be elite defensively. And you know what? At the end of the day, it might be a little repetitive, but we know that Harden can get us into offense. We know that Kawhi, when he's totally engaged, is dominant as a two-way player, and especially as an offensive force these days. We're going to be okay. We're going to score enough in the half court, but we got to be dominant defensively. And now that you've added Bradley Beal and Chris Paul and John Collins, and I think Collins will be better defensively than he was in Utah. I don't know how much better he's going to be. I don't think he's ever going to be an elite defender. Bradley Beal, we kind of know the story there. And with Chris Paul, he's not what he was defensively. And does he start taking away the Chris Dunn minutes, right? Like Bogdan Bogdanovic, by the way, just keeps falling further in the depth chart as they add these guys over him. I'm starting to get a little nervous about what the identity of this team is, because it was so strong last year, and it was the thing that I liked about this team. And now it's just like, oh, I know a lot of the names on this roster, but I'm not really sure how they all fit together.
Yeah, they had that great, overlooked. Jeff Van Gundy was a great part of that identity as well, because he's just like you don't want to take me seriously kind of guy. And they had a lot of players who had a chip on their shoulder and had a right to feel that way. And they did really build that identity. They traded one of those players, by the way, Norm Powell. Mm-hmm. And as you're saying, some of the players like that who they maintain might be getting pushed down the depth chart. And we're looking at kind of more of the classic Clippers BS potentially. Like, remember when old Paul Pierce was on the Clippers?
I was about to bring this up. Like the old Doc Rivers, like, oh, I know that name. Let's just go sign him.
Yeah, and it's LA. LA is a natural destination for an aging player. Most of the NBA owns real estate. Most of the players in the NBA own real estate in LA. It is kind of the official NBA city, more or less. Mm-hmm. So when you're an older player who's already made your money and looking for a place to end your career, LA is a natural place for you to go. So, none of that really encourages me, as you're saying.
the thing I keep coming back to with the Clippers, and the reason why I'm not totally out on them. First of all, I love the Brook Lopez signing. I think they just got the best backup center in the league. I kind of like the Collins fit. I think they just needed a guy. I don't know if he's going to start, what the plan is there. I guess Ty Lue will figure it out. But they just needed a guy who was like sort of that size with that skills. They didn't have it. They needed it. They got it. And this isn't Bradley Beal at $50 million a year. It's not Chris Paul the way that he was. It's like, okay, we kind of got these guys for pretty cheap. It's hard to kind of say no to. It felt like Chris Paul recruited the Clippers more than the Clippers recruited Chris Paul, honestly, because he just didn't want to leave that area, to your point. So it's hard to be, it's not as if they invested a ton in these guys. And I guess the ultimate thing with the Clippers is, hey, we just want to make sure that we have the flexibility in 2027. That's the thing that everybody keeps talking about with the Clippers. Okay, well, you still have it. Cool. You trade away Norm Powell. You didn't have to sign him to the extension. Kawhi comes off the books. Harden comes off the books. Beal comes off the books. Everything is there. And in the meantime, you'll be a playoff team. I think this team is still squarely a playoff team. And no matter what, and this is why I never trust the Clippers, by the way. I don't care. They could sign Giannis, and I would just be like, yeah, I don't trust him. But because it all comes down to Kawhi. If he's healthy and if he could give you 4 to 5 playoff rounds, obviously, then or four playoff rounds, then yeah, you've got a chance. Everything else is just like extra stuff. It's stuff to talk about. But at the end of the day, it's Kawhi. And it's why I will never trust the Clippers, is because I don't trust Kawhi to make it through that many playoff rounds.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it last year. It was pretty much the best case scenario for his health. And he was incredible for 2 or 3 games in the playoffs, and he just kind of got less incredible with every game as the series went on, right? By the end of the series, we weren't really talking about him anymore. At the beginning of the series, he was all we were talking about, right? So he's not as old as like LeBron, but it gives a similar feel, right? Where LeBron can come out in the playoffs and be like a bat out of hell, and then he has to play Julius Randle or Aaron Gordon a bunch of times in a row, and those guys are the same size as him and a decade younger. That's how it feels with Kawhi Leonard, even though he's not as old, but I mean, physically he is kind of that old. He's had so many serious injuries, which is kind of sad. I mean, it's just a bummer. It's not really it's not fun analysis, but that is kind of the bottom line with the Clippers. I agree.
The Clippers will be fun to watch. Again, there's the emotional component of this. Chris Paul back in that Clippers uniform in that new Clippers arena, like that. All of that's going to be fun. And it's a new Clippers uniform too, in addition to a new Clippers arena. So it'll look similar, but a little different. And that part of it will be interesting. But speaking of full circle moments, let's talk Damian Lillard. Gets bought out by the Bucks, signs with the Blazers. I was a little surprised by the reaction online, honestly, by the surprise. People are like, oh, wow, he's going back to Portland. I guess because maybe people thought he might take the year off, or maybe he would try to sign with a real contender. You know, the Warriors were out there. I think Minnesota was out there as a potential team. The Lakers were obviously mentioned always. Miami was mentioned as always. But I don't know. When I was in Vegas for Summer League, it kind of felt like Portland was the sneaky favorite to land Dame, and then they ended up signing him. And obviously there's the family connection. He wants to go back to Portland. His family is there. That was obviously a huge driving force in the decision. He said in his introductory press conference that it was also a basketball decision. But let's just start with the return of Dame. We'll start with the emotional component of this. A full circle moment. Damian Lillard returns to Portland, has a no trade clause as part of his contract. If it's up to him, he's going to retire a Trailblazer. Cool story. Also interesting though that it just sort of feels like he's given up on winning a championship.
Oh yeah, I mean he kind of went all in on that by demanding a trade and didn't go where he wanted to go and didn't even get out of the first round. So I think he sort of learned his lesson more or less. It's not like it would be impossible for him to win a championship if he did something other than go back to Portland. But he just decided what he really valued was like being where he feels comfortable and where he the word family comes up a lot with Damian Lillard, and now it's coming up with Chris Paul. We don't talk about people's family when they're in their prime, right? like if you're in your prime and you're a $200 or $300 million player or whatever, the family wants you to go wherever that money is because it's going to feed multiple generations of the family. But when you're older, it's like, oh, where's the family? What's the family doing? And just if you're talking about a player's family a lot, it's like coming to an end, basically. So that's where we're at with Lillard. This is the end.
Yeah.
there really is no reason for no basketball reason for him to go there or for them to pay him that much. It's all
Right.
emotional and it's all spectacle and nostalgia, which is fine. I mean, it's probably going to be good for them financially. I said in my column this week, they'll probably see an uptick in ticket sales just with him sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
That's how much he means to that franchise. But honestly, Young mania, Young sanity might be enough to have done that anyway, because this
Right.
guy's going to be a huge star. I think even if he's not, an all-star player, an amazing player, like he's just going to be a lot of fun.
Portland might have had the best offseason in terms of owners increasing the value of their
Yes.
team in advance of selling, not just with the Jan Hansen thing, which is huge. People really fully, I think we understand it. I don't think we fully understand how big of a deal that is in terms of tapping into the Chinese market there. But also bringing back Damian Lillard as the ultimate face of the franchise, like all of this stuff, and doing it to the point where, like, there is no reason for Damian Lillard to have a no trade clause. There is
It's
zero
ridiculous.
reason. It is completely emotional, but it's all. It also might be a business thing where you could basically sell this and say, like, obviously Dame wants to be here. You're going to be able to sell Damian Lillard jerseys for a year or two, depending on when this Portland Trailblazers sale eventually happens. And then plus you got the Young Hansen part of it.
Yeah, I just, they will sell tons of jerseys. You know who else sold a ton of jerseys? Dwayne Wade is a Chicago Bull,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because he was coming home.
Mm-hmm.
Again, home, family. This is stuff you talk about at the end. And it does sell a lot. There are people still wearing Dwayne Wade Bulls jerseys here in Chicago. A
That's
lot
great.
of them actually, because he's a beloved Chicagoan. But that's just what this is.
Right.
That's what it is. I really think that the Blazers are going to be a super interesting basketball team. Obviously, Lillard's not going to play a single game for them this year. But I really want to watch Young. I really want to see Klingon in year 2, see this defense continue to evolve. I want to see how Drew fits there,
Mm-hmm.
see if Scoot can take a step up. It's definitely kind of a no excuses year for
It
Scoot.
is.
I think he really has to be better.
I'm glad you brought him up because that's where I wanted to go to next. This is the year. This is it for Scoot Henderson, and you've got Drew Holiday there, who will be able to teach him something defensively. Damian Lillard there, who Chauncey Billups is already calling the most expensive assistant coach in the league, and I do think Lillard will do that. I think Lillard will take that very seriously. And for Scoot, I remember when he was drafted, he was saying, even though it was during the Lillard trade rumors, he was like, look, I hope that I could just be around Lillard as much as possible because I want to learn from him. And then he was around him probably for longer than people thought because that trade took forever. But then he was gone before the season started. So you're absolutely right, zero excuse for Scoot Henderson. And I don't know, I look at the depth chart, and maybe this is the next place we can go with this, because there is some interesting pieces here. I would guess that I'm going to guess Drew, Denny Avdia, Donovan Klingon, and I think Tamari Kamara has to be part of that starting lineup just for the defense. But maybe not if you've got Drew. Maybe you could bring Kamara off the bench. So I think maybe in Sharpie I would have Drew, Avdia, and Klingon. So who's the 4th starter? Who's the 5th starter? And that's going to be between Kamara, Jeremy Grant, Scoot Henderson, Shaden Sharp. And I think they need to start Scoot. I think it's time. I don't think that you can slow roll this guy up. You got to see what this guy has.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Before I forget, I think with the there's Damian Lillard going home thing, there's a very interesting Giannis angle there. I think that Giannis is basically seeming to want to stay in Milwaukee pretty much indefinitely, finding excuses to stay there. I think it's definitely informed by being teammates with Damian Lillard, seeing how that went for him when he tried to leave and tried to find some greener grass, so to speak. And I think a lot of players around the league are taking note of how it went for Damian, how it's gone for Kevin Durant, and you might see fewer stars asking out, but I don't know.
That's a great call, right? It doesn't really work. LeBron was the only one who made it work. And I don't know how much that was just he picked the right situations or the fact that he might be the greatest player to ever play basketball. And it's just, as great as guys like Kevin Durant and Giannis and some of these guys are, it doesn't really work when they leave and try to force it and play GM a little bit. It doesn't really work. And you're probably right. And with with some of the new rules and the supermax contracts and the aprons and stuff, it's just harder for those guys to sort of pick their spots and find situations that are better for them via trade. But maybe that'll be the return of free agent. I have no idea what's going to happen with that. But it just doesn't. It's a great call. It hasn't really worked, and we're starting to see maybe these players just want to stay put and try to make it work where they're at.
I think, and real quick too on the Damian, the possibility of maybe it being a good basketball decision for Damian Lillard. He's never played on a very good defensive team.
Correct.
Milwaukee should have been one, and actually kind of was in his first year, but the reason it really wasn't was because of him. Like, it's really kind of hard to have a very good defense with Damian Lillard playing significant minutes. But even I go to a lot of Bucks games because I live here in Chicago, where my home team is fine. They're not very exciting, right? And the tickets are too expensive because they're an all-time global brand. I can just get on the highway and drive an hour and 15 minutes to a much better stadium for a much better team for a much lower price. So I do that. The first year they had Damian Lillard, they actually did have a really great defense from time to time. And one of the games, actually two of the games I went to in their first year with Damian Lillard, they destroyed the Nuggets, and then the other one they destroyed the Thunder. And I was like, this is the most impressive team I've seen, all year. It's only for an extremely small sample size. But they were a lot of what they were doing was using Lillard as bait. Teams would be seeking out the Lillard switch, and they were giving it to him and just letting people blow by Damian Lillard. Oh, then you have Giannis and Brook Lopez right there, right? And I mean, the Blazers say that Damian is back and actually a useful player in year 2 of this contract. They have the personnel to do something like that.
They do, right? Klingon is an impact defensive player already. They've got Robert Williams still on the bench. Now, the league changes so much that I think it's a fair question to ask, like, who is on the team when Damian Lillard is healthy and playing for this team, right? And I would guess Avdia is part of it. Kamara is part of it. Drew Holiday is part of it. He's, to your point, never played with a guard like Drew Holiday, ever. And it feels like he always should have, right? Whether it was CJ McCollum, Shaedon Sharp, some of these other guys that have gone in and out, Anthony Simons. It always just felt like he needed another defensive guard next to him, and he's never really had that. And now he's got Drew Holiday there. I would imagine he steps into a starting job when he comes back, as long as he's like 80% of what he was before he got hurt. But yeah, I think with the guys that are going to be there long term, or at least, the midterm, I suppose, right? These are all good defenders. So I think it is a good basketball fit for Damian Lillard. Now, is it the right basketball thing for Portland? I don't know, because they're a little bit more expensive than you would think as a roster. They've got some young pieces that everybody likes. Do they have the guy? And that's why I think all roads always end up leading back to Scoot for them. If he's the guy, great. If not, I think there's real questions for the Trailblazers going forward. But in that case, I guess you just say, well, we got Dame, we got Drew, we got some players that people like and know and love and all these things. And so we'll tread water in the meantime and hope something shakes loose, I guess, would be the strategy. But it really does feel like they need Scoot to blow up here.
And I don't think he's going to. I think that he probably would have shown more signs of that by now. But I think he can be a decent player, and I think that the Blazers have enough guys where they can evolve into like a 5th or 4th seed or whatever. No, that's probably enough, to be honest. Like, that's
They'll
just
probably be like in the play-in mix this year.
Yeah. And this is a city that they're just looking for reasons to care. They love that team so much, and they just want it to be somewhat enjoyable to watch again. So
let's talk about Marcus Smart here. Gets bought out by the Wizards. Luka recruits him, signs with the Lakers. They waive Jordan Goodwin to make room for him. What do you think about the fit, Marcus Smart, with the Lakers?
I'm curious about it. I'll be honest. I haven't watched a lot of Marcus Smart over the past 2 seasons. He's only played about half of games that he was eligible for.
Yeah,
less than that. I mean, how many people watched more than one game of him on the Wizards?
Right.
Well, I didn't.
I don't know if the Lakers did.
Yeah, I don't know if they did either.
I would bet Luka did not.
I talked to a big time Grizzlies guy, a friend of mine, in preparation today, and he said that he thinks that Smart probably still has a lot in the tank, and that his injuries have just been not really systemic and just sort of bad luck, and not sign of serious physical decline, and that they were flashes of win connoisseur Marcus Smart in Memphis. Him just dragging them to victory when other players on the team looked like they didn't care at times. And so I think that, I guess we'll just have to see. I definitely think he's the type of player that the Lakers need if he can be Marcus Smart.
Right.
I don't think that defensively he's going to be what he used to be. I mean, not because of any serious injuries or physical decline, but just the fact that he's a little older. And, he was guarding prime Joel Embiid in the post and stuff like that. It's just like, I don't think that's going to happen again. Unless maybe he'll age and be the new PJ Tucker. I don't think he's quite built like that. But we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I'm going to do something similar that I did with Chris Paul. Start with the cons and then get to the things that I like about him. But to your point, I don't expect Defensive Player of the Year Marcus Smart. And by the way, should never have won Defensive Player of the Year. Complete sham.
He was fourth on his own team in defensive win shares that season.
Well,
not that that's the gospel of defensive metrics, but fourth on his own team.
Well, I would tell you he wasn't even first on his own team in Defensive Player of the Year campaigning. That was all Robert Williams. Right. And then he got hurt and became ineligible. And they were like, oh, crap, well, we need somebody. And then they just took all of their propaganda that they had reserved for Robert Williams and then just shoved it all in the Marcus Smart direction. And the Boston Media Mafia did what they do. And they got him the Defensive Player of the Year award. It should have been Bam Adebayo that year. But that's my local bias coming out. But I stand by it. Anyway.
Wait, this Heat Celtics thing goes really deep. It's gotten really deep over the last 5. I mean, it's always been like this, but I think it's gotten real nasty the last 5 years.
I would say that the 2019 to 2024 Jimmy Butler era, meeting in the Eastern Conference Finals over and over again, some of the moments that these teams had, the fact that Miami just stole Boston's heart over and over and over again in a way that Celtics fans didn't feel prepared for, I think really drove that animosity from the Celtics fan base because they felt like they were the better team and kept losing for some reason. And then for the Heat, they always just felt like disrespected. Heat fans were like, why is everybody always counting us out? The Boston Celtics are soft. And then you get into the name calling part of it. And that's how that happens. But
it sure is.
But I will, that is the hill I'm dying on, is Marcus Smart stole the Defensive Player of the Year from Bam. I don't even blame Marcus Smart for it. I like Marcus Smart as a basketball player just fine. I blame the Boston media for making this whole story up about why can't guards ever win Defensive Player of the Year and and it's like it's an argument. Your guard, that's when you want it to happen.
Exactly, it's an argument I'm sympathetic to. Wings and guards should be more seriously considered, and I don't think that I know that all the defensive metrics say that the big men who protect the rim are the most important, but I don't know how much I believe in the defensive metrics, even though I cited them a moment ago. And I think that they should be more considered. Just not him. Like there were many better, even again on his own team. Derek White and Jason Tatum, both better perimeter defenders than him. I digress.
This is what makes you a good guest, because you went down this road with me, and I appreciate that. You didn't blow me off. You went down the road with me, and you agreed with me, which is even more important. But going back to the Lakers fit here, I don't expect fake Defensive Player of the Year Marcus Smart to be there, just because you mentioned the age. There have been injuries over the years. We'll see. The conditioning needs to get better too, something that he's talked about. I mean, him and Luka are just going to be logging miles on those on the treadmills there in Los Angeles, I think, is the plan there. He played 54 games over the last 2 seasons combined. So these are the things that you got to worry about. You also think about a team built around Luka and LeBron, and those teams need to have good three-point shooters, and he's not, right? The three-point shooting is very streaky with him. He's going to get a lot of open shots, which is what a Lakers fan will tell you first and foremost when you bring this up. Oh, he's going to get more open shots. Yeah, okay, cool. He's 34% on catch and shoot threes, basically for his entire career. Like, even the catch and shoot threes don't go in at a high rate. I do expect that they'll probably go in at a higher rate because they'll just be more open than they've ever been for him.
Yeah.
And Luka and LeBron, and this, I don't think we talk about this enough. Their placement with the basketball when they pass is
unbelievable.
Top one. Like, he's gonna catch the ball where the seams need to be. That's how good LeBron and Luka are in the ball placement. So I think it'll tick up, but I also don't expect him to magically become Kyle Korver. So we'll see what happens there. And then back to the defensive part, like, he wasn't really used as a point of attack defender, and that's the thing the Lakers need, especially when they waived Goodwin, who was maybe their best point of attack defender last year.
Why'd they waive him? I feel like there had to be somebody else that, like, he was good.
They waived him. They waived Shake Milton, right? Yeah. So I don't know if I might rather have Goodwin than, I don't know. I think I'd still rather have Marcus Smart. But
he didn't land somewhere else yet, did he, Goodwin?
I don't think so. I think he still might have to clear waivers technically.
Okay.
So, but yeah, Marcus Smart, like, he's not been a point of attack defender very much over the last couple seasons. Memphis and Washington used him a lot to guard wings. They kind of treated him more as a wing defender, a wing stopper, which he was very good at, but he's not a point of attack defender. He's not a guy who's going to be staying in front of guys like Anthony Edwards or Steph Curry or Kyrie Irving or whatever, these guards that they're going to be running into in the Western Conference. Like, that's not really what he's been doing over the last couple of years. Now, if he gets into better shape, gets into better health, maybe he can kind of find that again, but that hasn't been his game now for 3 or 4 years. So that's another part of it that I'm worried about.
Yeah, I think, he probably will be a better shooter. You just can't overstate the value of playing with two of the best passers ever. And it's crazy that two of the best passers ever are on the same team. And even without a lot of reps together, obviously, those two, LeBron and Luka, brought that offense to such spectacular heights. And I'm pretty excited to see what they're able to do after actually, having a training camp and off season together and all this. If they're, if they get along, I don't know. This seems like there might be some weird rifts happening over there. And I actually think it's sort of like a bit of a failure on the higher up level for the Lakers to sort of push LeBron this hard, because 40-year-old LeBron is the best player that Luka has played with. And they're talking about, like, oh, Project 2027 or whatever for, like, let's build around Luka. How about Project right now? Like,
right.
He's playing with the best player he's ever played with. 40-year-old LeBron, 41-year-old LeBron will probably still be the best player he's ever played with. Their defense won't be good. I think that's obvious. It was quite gimmicky when their defense was good last year, and to the extent that it wasn't gimmicky, they had Dorian Finney-Smith, who they no longer have. And maybe Ayton can be a good defender. I just when a guy has been allergic to contact for that long, I just have a hard time believing that that's going to change. And you have to be physical to play center in the NBA and be a good defender. So I think that they'll have an incredible offense, and I think that Marcus Smart, although the volume won't be there because he's not going to be a ball handler on this team, efficiency-wise, he might have one of his better, if not his best, offensive season.
So really quick, Jordan Goodwin signed with the Suns. So I just wanted to clarify that. So good for the Suns. I like that.
That's a good pickup for them. Yeah,
it is. But to your point, he gives them depth at that position, and it was a position I need, because basically behind Luka and Austin Reeves, it's Gabe Vincent and it's Bronny James and Dalton Connect, I guess, if he's still part of this team in rotation. So it gives them depth at a position I need, a proven basketball player, NBA guy. I think he could potentially even close games, right? If he's giving you what you need defensively, he could close games for them. And like all the things I said about the point of attack defense and all that, fine. Still a really smart defender, knows where to be, good communicator. Like JJ Redick's going to love all of that stuff. Like that's the kind of, it felt like they needed a defensive voice.
Right.
Because I don't really know who that was. And if Marcus Smart can just walk in and just be the voice of that defense, the spirit animal of the defense, so to speak, like that is something that they just did not have, especially after trading Anthony Davis. So you've got that. He's still good at navigating ball screens and competing. He's a stout ISO defender against wings. That's not something that LeBron James wants to do. It's not really something that Rui Hachimura is always good at. So yeah, he's going to be a plus, right? And for getting him on the buyout, I think it's a plus addition there. In terms of the Lakers overall, I want to go back to something you said before in terms of why are they all focused on the Luka timeline as if it's some distant thing?
Right.
I agree with you, and I don't really know why it almost feels like they're trying to run LeBron out of town.
Right.
Is it only the financial part of this where they're saying we don't really want to pay LeBron $50 million a year? We'd rather split that up and have Luka at the top, and we just think that depth wins in the NBA now? Maybe. And if that's the basketball argument, I'm here for it. Like, okay, we can have that argument. But it does feel like they're almost antagonizing LeBron a little bit and Rich Paul. Yeah. And according to the reporting, Rich Paul went to the Lakers front office and said, hey, we're coming out with this statement. Here you go. And the Lakers just still sort of let it come out.
Right.
And that
obviously they just got sold, right?
Right.
To a gigantic financial entity that owns the Dodgers.
Yep.
And they've had tremendous success, obviously, with the Dodgers. They won the World Series and they are the best team in the regular season, pretty much every season. And part of their success with the Dodgers has been not holding on to stars, basically, right? And so maybe they think that a similar principle is going to serve them here. This isn't baseball, though.
Right.
This is basketball. Having one of the best players in the league and having two of them is really good, and you should nurture and savor that moment because it's not going to last. And you can't just get rid of Cody Bellinger and still be good in the NBA.
Right.
If for instance LeBron somehow got injured and couldn't play next year, and it was just Luka and the Luka tears next season, I mean they would be significant. They'd be so much worse. They would be at least 8 games worse without LeBron, probably, right? So, yeah, I think that they shouldn't be precious about the timeline, and they should try to win right now. I totally agree with you.
And maybe they will, right? They still have Luka. They still have LeBron. I think the supporting cast is pretty good. And so we'll see what happens there. Really quick, because we're talking about point guards and old point guards, I thought we should bring up Russell Westbrook. He remains unsigned. I was going through the league, and I'm like, what's the Russell Westbrook landing spot? Because it feels like he's played for half the league already. And I got to tell you, it was not easy to come up with it. I did come up with 2 spots. I don't love them, but it's the only things that I could think of for Russell Westbrook. I thought Philadelphia, because the thing with Philly is that their best players don't play any games. So you might as well have Russell Westbrook out there who does play a lot of games. So, and they don't really have a backup point guard behind Tyrese Maxey. Kyle Lowry, is he really going to be part of the rotation? He's really fallen off. Westbrook is probably more of a positive impact than Lowry at this point. So I thought maybe Philadelphia, and the other team I thought was Phoenix, but that was before I looked it up and they signed Jordan Goodwin. But I still think that maybe, those are 2 very different kinds of players, right? Westbrook is a guy who can get you into offense, handle the ball a little bit, kind of eat some innings there. That's not really what Goodwin's going to do. So of the 30 teams in the league, those are the only 2 that I could figure out that could even theoretically talk themselves into Russell Westbrook at this point.
Yeah, I'm reminded of what Carmelo went through at the end of his career, where people didn't want to come out and say it, but basically it was this guy is declined a lot and still has too high of an opinion of himself, and that combination of things is making him really tough to have around.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was out of the league, and when he came back with Portland, he was more accepting of being a role player, and he was a good third scorer or whatever on that team. And I think maybe something similar might need to happen with Westbrook. There was that Ramona Shelburne report that there was basically dramatic yelling in the Nuggets locker room with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then Gordon went out of his way during the very next media scrum to say that's BS, that didn't happen. I don't believe Aaron Gordon in that case. I think that's just, the NBA, the league in general, they're all kind of family and a fraternity, right? And they don't like when the media knows things that they don't want them to know, and
Right.
they're just like, maybe I think that did happen, and they're also, they made peace, and they're like, we need this guy right now, and we like this guy even though he's a pain in the butt. But everybody knows that Westbrook is like that. Like, everybody knows that he's hard to have around at this point, and that he's declined a lot. Like,
Right.
when he was in the Clippers, on the Clippers before he came to Denver, he got demoted from starting to the bench, and the reports were that he was just trying so hard to make the Clippers front office glorify his demotion by campaigning extra hard for him as sixth man of the year. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, this kind of stuff is ridiculous. Like,
Yeah,
teams
and
just
there
don't
was that
want to.
whole report back then that it was his idea to come off the bench,
Right.
and that
Which
was
is
part of that
obviously
campaign.
not true. And
Correct.
it's, the juice is just not worth the squeeze at this point. Denver was
Yeah.
so desperate last year. They were so like hard capped basically because
Mhm.
they didn't think they could trade Michael Porter Jr. I also didn't think they could trade him. Apparently, me and Calvin Booth were both wrong about that. But I'm still shocked that they did as good a job as they did trading him. But they just needed like anybody. They needed a warm body. And I don't know if anyone is in that exact situation this year, but mid-season might be a
Yeah.
mid-season Westbrook acquisition for somebody.
Yep. Somebody gets hurt. Westbrook's eating a little bit of humble pie by then. We'll see, right? But I definitely think that the first point that you made, some of these guys are getting squeezed out, and if Russell Westbrook is one of the
Yeah.
guys that gets squeezed out of the league here, that's going to be a big story, and it'll be good validation of the column you just wrote. So,
Yeah.
all right, we're gonna get to our last segment here. I call this the toy department. We get a little silly. We have a little bit of fun here. It's all sort of made for social media, so that's what we're gonna do here. We're gonna build the perfect point guard. So we're gonna do it draft style because I think it's the best way to do things. You could pick any point guard in NBA history, past or present, to fill the following categories: body/athleticism, shooting, handle, passing, and defense. So we've got 5 categories. You could choose any point guard in NBA history, and the associated skill set to fill that category. We can't repeat the same point guard regardless of category. So once a point guard is drafted, he cannot be drafted for anything else. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. You're the guest. I'm going to give you the first pick, and we're not going to do snake style. We're just going to go. We're
Okay.
just going to take turns here.
Which category are we starting with?
Whatever you want.
Oh, okay. Well, then I choose body/athleticism, and I'm taking LeBron James.
Okay, so we're considering LeBron a point guard. I like it. That's fine.
I think we have to. If I can't do that, then I'll choose something else. But
nope, it's fine. I think that works. Okay, that's a great pick.
But that means Luka is a point guard too. So
right, and I'm not sure
throwing
I'm
that
gonna
out
take his
there.
body though.
I wouldn't take his body. No, I would take other things. But yeah.
I'm gonna go shooting, and I'm gonna take Steph.
Okay, that's a good call. So then I just take any category now as well. This is tough. Now it's getting to the point where it's hard. there's too many
second pick. Okay.
I think to some degree I want to just choose things that I think are fun and mention players that I think are fun versus taking the best pop. Like, if I really think the best option, if I'm really going for the best option on handle, I think I would probably take Chris Paul because he has the most crazy assist to turnover ratio for the volume of stuff that he's done like ever, and it's not even close, right? But like I want to take Tim Hardaway instead because
I love it,
because people don't give Tim Hardaway enough respect for popularizing the crossover.
Right.
He played he's a Chicago guy, but then he played college at UTEP, Texas El Paso, and they didn't even have a name for the crossover when he was playing there, and they called it the Texas two-step. So I need to give him some respect.
I love it. I'm gonna go. All right, so you've already taken body and handle, so I'm not. There's a strategy to this, right? Like, okay, well, I'm not gonna take a body or a handle because you already took that.
Right.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go pass. I'm gonna go defense. No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I am. I'm gonna go defense. I'm gonna take Drew Holiday.
He's most certainly on my short list for that category. And well, okay, there's only two of us, so it's not like somebody else is going to take one of the better defenders remaining. Passing, I'm gonna have to go Magic Johnson.
Yeah, that's a good pick. All right, so now we can just start doubling up. So now I gotta think about players that I want. Okay. So you took Magic. That would have been a good body to take. See, I think I might have misplayed this.
Yeah.
All right, give me you know what? I think this would be kind of cool. Give me Westbrook, like prime Westbrook for body athleticism.
Yeah.
Getting that high flyer. I think that's good.
That's very good. Yeah. One of my wild cards for body athleticism in case things went crazy would have been Eric Bledsoe, actually.
That's a great pull. Yeah, that's true. He stayed in the league for a long time for that because of that frame.
They used to call him Mini LeBron.
They did.
Shooting, I'm gonna take Mark Price for shooting.
That's a great one.
Yeah. Can you imagine if Mark Price played today and he was allowed to shoot all the time? That'd be crazy.
It would be. All right, give me I still have handle and passing. You still have defense left. All right, passing, I want I'll take Chris Paul in passing.
That's great. Assist to turnover.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of goes with the IQ and all of that too. Like I just like the way he reads the game, so I want him.
I'm gonna take Kyle Lowry for defense.
Okay.
I was tempted to say Caruso, but Kyle Lowry's just done more. Just had a longer career.
I'm gonna copy your handle strategy. I just want somebody fun, right? I could go Kyrie, right? And
okay.
I could. I'm not gonna do it.
Right. Too obvious.
It's too obvious. I could go Iverson.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do it. I want Jason Williams.
I'm so glad you said that.
White chocolate. Let's go.
Him and Rod Strickland were on my short list there. I was thinking about how one of the things I think about a lot these days is with Jason Williams, who I frequently think of. He said they had this interview and they're like, what was like your favorite team or like memory? And he was like, and it's not one that most people think of with him, but he was like, well, it's when I won a championship. Why would it be anything else? Like
right.
When I played for the Heat, everybody's like, oh yeah, he played for the Heat. And he was obviously, a less flashy player, a lot more like just straightforward, but like very good, and what they needed. But everybody, of course, associates him with the flash of the Kings and the Grizzlies.
When he was with Miami, he kind of turned into the Steve Kerr of that team, where he was just playing off of D Wade, and just hitting open threes. And he was the first guy that I remember early shot clock pull up threes. Like if you were if you were playing off of him, if you gave him 3 feet of room, it would be 20 seconds on the clock. Right as soon as he passed half court, he's like, all right, you're not gonna cover me. I'm gonna shoot this. And that was transformative for the Heat's offense when they had acquired him. And he just kind of developed into this efficient 3-point shooter, spacer, handle the ball, bring it up the court, get it to D Wade in position, let D Wade hit that Iverson cut or whatever it was going to be that they were running. He just kind of turned into that player.
Somebody I think of in this light is LaMelo Ball. What if LaMelo Ball ever calmed down and played on a more serious team and did less memorable things, but was a champion or like on a really good team?
It feels like LaMelo would have to hit the playoff milestones that Jason Williams did,
right,
to at least be like, okay, this is cool, but it's not working.
Yeah.
And LaMelo probably right now could still say like, the team's just not good enough around me. Just wait.
Yeah.
You would kind of have to hit those milestones first.
Yeah. Steve Kerr was an interesting person to bring up to say like he was the Steve Kerr of the Heat. And Jason Williams had that, like you said, he was actually a great shooter, but he also just was never afraid, which is what people who watched the Bulls in the 90s.
Right.
That was Steve Kerr's, his greatest quality, of course, was shooting, but very close to that was the fact that he was never afraid. And when they were, in the last season, especially, like everybody was afraid. Like that was, even Scottie Pippen was I mean, everybody in Chicago will tell you that Scottie Pippen got afraid sometimes, but like everybody on that team, Kukoc, nobody wanted to be out there, like,
Right.
because they knew how big of a deal it was and how many people were watching. So Steve Kerr was logging a lot of minutes because he was not afraid to be out there. Yeah.
Is there anybody else on your draft board here that you wanted to bring up that you could just pick something and include into your ultimate point guard here?
Some guys, another old from that era of the Bulls, I had as a wild card for body / athleticism was Ron Harper, because he was like a big point guard before they were big point guards, except for Magic, of course, who's just like in his own world. But he was like this career shooting guard. And then when Michael came back, they didn't know what to do with him. And he actually just didn't even play really in the 94-95 season, which is Michael's comeback season. And then the next year, Phil Jackson was like, oh, we'll just make you a huge point guard since we play the triangle offense and don't really have a point guard anyway. So he was like a wild card for me on body athleticism, passing and handles.
My body athleticism wild cards were Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and that was sort of my hedge in case you did take Magic. You ended up taking Magic for passing, which was a good call.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, at least I get that body. But I ended up going Westbrook just because of the athletic, and I just thought it would be fun. Jason Kidd was another one on my short list.
Yeah, Kidd's great. I mean, his speed was just out of control.
Yeah.
Young Jason Kidd's speed was like unbelievable to watch. I had Terrell Brandon as a wild card for passing and handling specifically. Yep. He's very small. Probably couldn't play too much today because of his size. Pete Maravich for ball handling. Pete Maravich was a lot sloppier than I realized when I did my research. I was like, damn, this guy turned the ball over a lot. So I don't think I'll take him for passing, but for handling and shooting, it's funny. I was looking at the Pete Maravich stats. The 3-pointer only existed for the last 3 years of his career, and nobody was shooting it. So he was never even he didn't even average one attempt per game in any of those 3 seasons. But he shot like shockingly high percentage from 3. Obviously, the low volume is part of that, but he's shooting like 70% from 3.
That's crazy.
So like, can you imagine if he played in a 3-point era? Like that's nuts.
I don't want to get yelled at, so obviously I considered Gary Payton for defense, but I just enjoyed watching Drew Holiday play defense, so I just picked him. And then if I could add anything to my ultimate create a player here, it would just be Allen Iverson's swagger, just everything about him, his personality, all of it. I would just, if I could put Russell Westbrook's body, Steph's shooting with Jason Williams' handle, Chris Paul's IQ and passing with Drew Holiday's defense into the Allen Iverson package, that is exactly sort of what I want out of a basketball player. Like, I'm all in.
Yeah, I tried to like almost kind of load those elements into defense with Kyle Lowry because he's just a dirt boy, and it's like he's so smart. He's a smart scoundrel, and I wanted that.
He's like a swashbuckling point guard. He's just
just
out
like,
there.
I still can't believe how good he got in his 30s. Like, it's like I was talking to somebody about this. Like, who gets better after 30? Almost no one, but Kyle Lowry did.
He did.
Yeah, crazy stuff.
John Wilmes, thanks so much for jumping on, man. This was fun. Big point guard thing. You have a big thing on point guards coming out on RealGM. Thanks for jumping on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.